It's less of the money that is in your bank account. It's more of the conversations at the dinner table.
And that's facts.
There's a lot of behavior that we've inherited because of trauma associated to these financial terms that goes from one household to another. If we don't address the mindset, which financial psychology is a part of every experience in the classroom, adults as well, we're pretty much sowing seed on concrete.
I'm the amen corner for sure, for sure.
There was this storytelling around financial literacy like it was just for poor people, specifically poor black people. No. We've always been in the community to make sure that what people needed to have access to was provided in a way in which they could understand. Like the ways in which we make this information resonate to the student. I would do the Tootsie Roll right now. Like,
I wish I had that when I was in school.
This is gold, as y'all can see. Our whole point is, how do we get this gold to the rest of the people?
Boom.
What's up? What's up? Welcome back, y'all. This is another episode of a marketing podcast. But as you can see, this is not Angelina. Angelina is here. She's actually here with all of the rest of the creators from Launchpoint Creative. But right now, today, we wanted to do something a little different, right? Okay. So I have with me my great friend, Isaac Cooper.
What's happening?
The man, the finance man.
Okay.
CEO, founder of IMC Financial Consulting.
Come on.
And creator, the mastermind, the genius behind the Financial Freedom Project. So what we want to do today is talk a little bit about the work that G Media and the Financial Freedom Project have done and how we're able to like pull some of the most important parts of marketing out of that case study, if you will. And then we're going to have our creators from Launchpoint be able to ask some questions live. So this is a pretty different format, only for you.
Come on now.
Especially for you. But mostly because in addition to being able to, give our creators more insight into how business owners who are forward thinking actually think, we want to make sure that we're creating a platform for you to talk about all of the amazing things you're doing the Financial Freedom Project. And I think, too, part of the conversation will be how cool it is that they're so similar, what we're doing with Launchpoint, what you're doing with Financial Freedom Project.
Right.
But ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Isaac Cooper.
What's happening? Yeah. I'm going to clap for that intro, too. Yeah. That's a clip. Clip that. Send that to me.
If y'all didn't know this, my kinfolk. Kinfolk, we've been in the trenches since 2018, 2019?
It's the type of relationship that we won't even count no more. Yeah. We've been chopping wood for some time.
Y'all.
Yeah, real talk.
And it's so like I gotta say, I'm just so proud of you, and it's so cool to see the forest now, right? Like, because we've literally been talking since both of the ideas we're working on have been seeds in our brain, just randomly kind of like, hey, cuz.
Yeah.
Let me this is what I'm thinking, Brad. I'm like, that's a good idea. And so to see it all kind of come to fruition is so cool. But I want you to tell the people a little bit about what you're doing with IMC and, of course, what you're doing with the Financial Freedom Project. Yeah,
well, and let me do some reciprocity on those roses really quick because I believe that we all make phone calls to individuals that have expertise. And, I say this facetiously where folks are like, yo, let me pick your brain. Like, no, pick a payment plan, my brother. And so alongside that, one thing that Kayla knows that I say at the end of all of our conversations, like, yo, don't invoice me for this. Because this was a lot of information that you gave me that I'm going to be able to generate revenue off of. So in the space of appreciation, this journey really is represented with words that you share with me that I've been able to put in place in which not only the community, but now the country has been able to see the results of this. And so thank you.
Of course. You're welcome.
All right. So IMC Financial Consulting ultimately was birthed in 2016. I've been in the financial industry since 2012. So 12 years and I would say 8 years as a business owner. One of the unique things about our design is that I started at a Fortune 100 company. I was the only black in the state of Alabama. And then to be honest, if it was up to me, I'll still be playing football. So for those that are watching the video here, you could say that gentleman is very masculine and his physique looks very well. Well, that is because I planned on joking somewhat. But if it was under me, I'll still be playing football. And one thing that I've always been comfortable with was numbers. Like I really enjoyed seeing the surprise on people's face whenever I did math in my head, even as a child. If I'm at Walmart, we're at Food World, Jamaican by blood, Floridian by birth. So if my mom is at the, checkout line, they say, well, I'll walk on. Last thing you want is an angry Jamaican. So I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and calculate this in my head so we could get up out this store. And so numbers was, getting proximate to numbers wasn't an issue. And so once football ended, and I saw that there was this world in which you can work with people with their numbers that was called like financial consulting, financial planning. But as I mentioned, I'm at this Fortune 100 company. And so for those that watch sports or love watching, basketball or football, let's think more so in a college standpoint, there is typically a top 25 ranking. Mm-hmm. So Fortune 100, when you think about companies, this would be like a top 5, right? Like one of those creme de la creme in regards
to the top of the Fortune 500.
Come on now.
Okay, I got you. We here.
Top 20%.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it was amazing training, amazing exposure. And there was probably over 100 folks in the state of Alabama. And the office that I was at was actually the #1 office in the country. So, I'm walking in like, wait a minute, right? In regards to the type of money they're managing, but also the type of money they're making. But then I started to see this pattern that was tied to the people that they wanted you to share the good information to were only the people that already had money. In which that natural pattern of, all right, well, the folks I know that got money don't look like me. And so who is sharing the information to those that have every interest and possibly every fiber in their body want to have and create the type of wealth that we are helping these folks develop, but they just haven't had access to the information or the type of income that could help them create that journey. And so the more I saw that disconnect in regards of folks that had an appetite for the information, but the expertise that was there to provide it in a way to generate revenue. Because at the end of the day, when you are in a service-based type company, you got to generate revenue, right? And so, and in order to do that, the company or the individual got to have some discretionary income, and we'll talk about that later. So fast forward, what I saw is that there wasn't a company or a process that existed that allowed people to satisfy their dreams in regards of their financial journey that wasn't tied to a quota or a product. And so we wanted to create a solution that essentially every tax bracket had access to. And so we have the empathy to deal with those in the lowest tax brackets, and we have the acumen to deal with those in the highest. And so that ranges from, one income household, a single mother, all the way to, I got a meeting in a couple of days with a professional athlete who's flying his plane to Birmingham to talk about some of the same foundational fundamentals necessary to be able to build and create wealth. And so we're a boutique shop. We've been able to do some very incredible things, and one of the elements of our solutions, by being able to range from one tax bracket to another, is to design a solution that includes all of the communities, the youth and the adults, which has been through the Financial Freedom Project.
Okay, so I want you to talk a little bit more about the Financial Freedom Project itself, because you were already doing so much and reaching so many other demographics with just IMC by itself. Yep. So how does the Financial Freedom Project kind of take that to the next level? Yeah,
man, it's really been through packaging. So just as you mentioned, I've always had a heart to make sure those that didn't have access to this information, not even from a book form or from something they've been able to read, is more so from something they've been able to see.
And that's facts. And I'll just throw this out. I was one of those people, y'all. That's how we met. So I met Isaac. I actually met him at my church. I think you were doing like a panel at my church, but I went to go see him. My mom passed away. I had some bread, and I was like, don't know anything about this or what to do with it. And he honestly gave me some of the best advice I ever got, which was, invest this in yourself, invest this in your business, right? Because I was thinking like, I'm young, I'm black, I'm like, I'm supposed to put money somewhere. I know that's what other people do, but I don't know where it should go. Let me talk to him. And on the empathy piece, he was like, I understand why you would want to try to invest this in other places, but right now the most important place you can possibly invest it is in you. And that was so that was really life-changing, because in my mind I'm thinking, well, if you invest money in a business, that means you're selling a product, right? And so you use the money to buy the inventory. But he was like, no, you are the business. You have to be taken care of. And so firsthand I can tell you, not just because he's my friend, but from experience, they really mean what they say about the empathy and the education, and meet people at every tax bracket. Because at that point I was still a dependent. I didn't even have a tax bracket. But when you take that then into the school system, and honestly beyond, right? Like, you're talking about transforming literal entire communities, right? Not just groups of people, but an entire area. Absolutely.
And just as you mentioned, and again, I got to shout you out every time you do that, because our company is built on 3 E's, right? Exposure, education. But as we tell our clients, we can't stare a parked car. Execution. So you still took action, right? Even with the information that allowed us to be where we are today, right? Where I walked in, I said, oh my goodness, what movie am I about to audition for? But through that, just as you mentioned, we've always been in the community to make sure that what was needed or what people needed to have access to was provided in a way in which they could understand. Because one of the elements I saw in the financial industry is that they wanted to give affirmation they knew more than you in the conversation. And so they're using words and terminology that I'm like, bro, I understand that, but that's because I read the same information you're reading. That's because I got my undergrad in finance. And we need to, the true experts should find joy on simplifying complicated things. And that was an element that we just didn't see, because they really took advantage of your ignorance. And the more you were ignorant of a particular thing, usually that's a gateway to generate revenue off of that blind spot. And so one of the things that was dope about before we launched the Financial Freedom Project is that the city of Birmingham reached out to us about a citywide assessment. So when was the first time the city of Birmingham had an assessment about all financial empowerment initiatives, from housing to investing to all of the different demographics on how things really connected from a historical event to our today's environment. So it was a 2-day, this was back in 2019. It was a 2-day pretty much assessment. We had all the major foundations, all the major banks, organizations. It was probably about a convening of about 50 to 60 individuals. And we did a deep dive on who's doing what and are you doing it well? Because what this did, it allowed those that in the lower tax brackets to identify some of the community resources that are there, that as you go from one tax bracket to another, you become more independent. But until then, you need to depend upon some of those organizations so you can make sure you have more discretionary income. We're always going to keep coming back to that, because that allows you to be able to participate in other things. So from that assessment, our very first recommendation was financial literacy within Birmingham City schools. And the reason why is that, we had a lens, and there was a number of things that we talked about on establishing a financial empowerment advisory team. It's just a number of things. But the reason why that was our first recommendation is that we got to be proactive. Adults is more reactive. They missed out on this information. We start learning financial habits by 4th grade, just by observing. My son, he is 5 years old, and if I give him money, and this is just based off of repetition, he'll get $1, $5, $10. He knows the first thing that's come out of his mouth, Dad, I got to save this. Now, once he gets the repetition of that, Dad, I got to invest it. Now, how much, right? And so we missed out on some of those opportunities. Now, I am not discounting or not recognizing the economic hamstring that happened within the black community, going all the way back from the Freedmen's Bank, Tulsa, Oklahoma, redlining. There's a number of ways it could be discussed on the money necessary to even try to participate or even sustain some type of investment. That can be a whole nother chapter on that, because we got some receipts to display how that impacts right now. But through all of that, there are tools that we have access to today that we wanted to make sure that as these students learn about these different concepts and these different financial know-hows, it will be irresponsible. 2 things. It would be irresponsible for us not to include the parents. What's the information through the form of workshops and one-on-one consultations? But also, it would be irresponsible to put the onus on the teacher to teach them these concepts. Mm-hmm. Because they're not making enough money for a Merrill Lynch, a UBS, any wealth management platform. They're not calling them Edward Jones. They're not calling them. They're not. They don't make enough money. They're not. No. Ew. That's what they're going to say. That is more liability on us. We're going to take more risk on managing less money. No, we want folks with more money. And so who is there that is the example for them to be able to connect these concepts? Because we would actually, and this is why I get so frustrated when I see some of these lollipop solutions. We're actually adding more fuel to the fire on the damage to the community if it's not a comprehensive approach. Because if the student goes home with information that they didn't learn from that parent, and that parent has not been encouraged with that information to address it at that particular level, now there is a dysfunction that will occur or be compounded because the student's coming home with information that their parent can't validate, right? And the parent is now frustrated because, student may be like, man, mom, no, you take out the trash. Nah, I don't know if it's going to go down like that. So that's one issue. The second is, it is very difficult for a faculty and a staff member or a teacher to facilitate on the topic of credit if their credit score is a 520. What they going to tell that student? Because the students ain't just going to sit there and, I'm telling you, find these kids. I just had a conversation with 3 7th graders. These kids are curious. And you know what they want to know? What's your credit score? First question, how much money you make? What you do with your money?
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, yeah. And what you going to say? Well, I can tell you what not to do.
And that takes courage. That takes transparency, right? And we have to create an environment that allows individuals to first have that realization with their money and then allow that to be translated into the student because they'll be able to sniff out if you don't understand something or not. And that's why with our design, we wanted to make sure, we ensured that the solutions that were necessary, one, of course, a classroom experience is dope. That's from the activities, from Jeopardy to like the ways in which we make this information resonate to the student. I would do the Tootsie Roll right now. Like that is, I get so excited about that because we're just sitting back like, okay, what they listening to now?
Right.
We're working on something, the correlation in between hip hop and wealth. There's certain lyrics that there's just so much assets we have to play with that if you truly care about the audience that is receiving this information, you will acknowledge them as assets instead of something to pull them away from.
And I love your passion for what you do because I share it. But I'm glad it's on display because what I often tell potential clients and others is that your marketing is a reflection of your internal priorities, right?
Yep.
And so for you to be able to speak so passionately about the work that y'all are doing and obviously how important it is to get that to as many people as possible. When it was time to launch the Financial Freedom Project, you called me like you did any other day, right? It was just a normal phone call. But this time it was like, Don G.
Yeah.
I need you as Don G. And I'm like, what's up? And you like, listen, we ready to roll.
Yep.
And we want to do it right.
Yep.
So talk to me about why it was important for you to think about marketing, invest in marketing, whatever the case may be from the jump, right? Because a lot of times that's something people either try to bootstrap or circle around to it, but that wasn't what you did with the Financial Freedom Project.
Yeah, and I think what was unique about my process is that, as you know, I'm involved with my own social media on my personal page, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now X, Facebook, and there is a level of respect that you acknowledge by managing your own process, posting your own captions, thinking through captions with, all right, how am I, do I put, like all these elements that are necessary to do it right. And I think the other piece that was unique is that I knew my audiences in regards of the processes to make decisions. So I was very aware of, all right, this process, this story needs to be told for them to cut the check. Mm-hmm. This story needed to get told for the resources. So I knew who needed to hear the story. Mm-hmm. But I also knew that this is going to require a team, an infrastructure, and also the things that I don't see. And that's one of the elements that I knew going in, is that I wanted to make sure that there was someone that understood the intangible element of who we are. Like you just got to be around it, mm-hmm. right? Like you got to be in a room. And she's always, she is the community, right? And so there would be natural events that we would rub shoulders at, and there's just this really continuum of a fabric, right, that I knew would be exemplified in a level of like freedom too, right? Like there's an element of liberation that you want your message really to be captured by whoever's receiving it. Or whoever is helping interpret it. And I knew that you were able to provide that. So I would say the biggest thing for me is that I knew it was going to require a bigger infrastructure than myself. And I also knew that there were blind spots, right? Like there's only so much that I could do. Was I doing it well? Yes, I feel like I did a great job on my social media stuff.
You did.
And I'm still doing a good job.
You absolutely do.
But in order to go to this next level, right, in order to, I can't share now, but there's certain cities in which I'm moving to. I can't share. I'm actually going to be in New York next week, in Harlem, furthering the Financial Freedom Project. But it requires an infrastructure that if you're really trying to scale, that's it. That's really what it boils down to. I knew that we were going to scale, so I called Don G. I should have just said that and be quiet.
I mean, you talk about simplifying. Yeah. I think that's facts, because part of what we did was we did the red, white, and blueprint for the Financial Freedom Project, and what we were able to do was say, hey, yeah, based on what these people need to do to cut the check, what these people need to do to get buy-in, like these are the priorities, and then we were also able to carry on that execution for a good little bit too. But from the capacity standpoint and also from the strategy standpoint, like what were some of the things you feel like were the most helpful?
Yeah. So of course, the biggest thing the social media management, for that to be automated and also forecasted. So of course, for the business owners, that if you are playing a role in it, in either the capturing process and either the editing process and either the caption or even just the calendar in itself, you're able to release all of that. And what that does, it unlocks a different level of creativity that you're able to bring and innovation that you're able to bring. And so that was definitely one. And then two, from a strategy standpoint, I'm in the world so much that I don't know if there is a different way for me to be saying things. And so there was language that I picked up just within our communication that I'm like, I need to say it that way next time. And then along the way, even whenever you release the social media management element to Don G, there is going to be perspectives of stories that you didn't think that you captured, that they were able to extract in the content. Because we were able to, with us being in the classroom, we were able to just get, all right, on our phone footage, and we had a process to where the team was able to just go through the videos. And again, we had a schedule too, like, hey, Isaac, in December, make sure you get this. Hey, here's the 5 questions. So it's very, very template ready. But alongside that, there were different stories or posts where I was like, damn, I didn't know he said that. I'm over there laughing, And so it's the strategy in any partnership. You should always want to identify blind spots, right? And then from a execution standpoint, the sky's the limit. You're gonna. Yeah, just sit back and relax. I think the clarity for the business owner is to be very clear on storytelling is 2 things. What's the story and who you're telling it to, right? And so one of the things that I appreciate is, within the last, I would say, 36 months, 48 months, 4 years, there has been a misrepresentation of what storytelling really looks like because of the pandemic. And we had more eyes looking at stories, given really false representation of what views really are. And now it's starting to sizzle out on like, all right, what is true content now? You know, instead of just kind of this clickbait stuff. But so to all business owners, just be very clear on who needs to hear the story to get the check. I'm going to keep going to that because, you know, yeah, 1 million likes is cool, but I don't mean $1 million. You know, now that one of them likes may transfer into that, but you got to be very clear on the process that this and the role social media plays, because if you see this as a revenue generator, no. For me, the revenue generator is in the things you see behind the scene. Let me show you my systems. Let me show you my operations. Let me show you my infrastructure, our compliance, our standard operating procedures. Let me show you all that, right? The social media gives affirmation to the decision. So when I'm in these meetings, I'm showing totally different documents. And then as soon as it gets to, well, Isaac, tell us, website is imcffp.com. Boom.
Period.
Everything's right there. You know, and so go to our Instagram to see how these babies are learning in a classroom. So you got to be very clear on how you are going to utilize it as an asset and then make the investment. Because the good thing is that, you know, once the story is told, you could keep telling it.
Yep. You know what? And this is why I invited you here, because I love you and you get it. So we're gonna prepare to ask our creators a couple questions or allow them to ask them questions. But I wanted to call out two things. One, I said earlier, your marketing is a reflection of your internal priorities, right? And so I think you hit that on the head, right? It was like we had all of this stuff in place. It was just time to showcase it to the world. But I would say the other piece that we talked a lot about too in our strategizing was the function and the role of social media, right? Yeah. Obviously, there's some stuff happening in the background. And I was in New York last week with the Goldman Sachs program, and one of the instructors there said,
slight flick.
You know what I'm saying? Just a little something.
Catch
you know
the flex, y'all. That was a flick.
But like, for real, the digital marketing consultant has said, like, how did she frame it? She said that PR is for visibility, marketing is for leads, and sales is for revenue. And so that's the conversation I find that we're often having as well, which is,
right,
what's happening behind the scenes, right? This is just, like you said, confirming, affirming, validating what's happening, right? So we can show on the front end that we're doing what we tell you we're doing on the back end. You can see it everywhere.
That's exactly right.
It's all congruent.
That's exactly. Whenever I'm in front of, you know, superintendents or mayor of a particular city, and I tell them that the classroom activities are interactive, well, Isaac, how so? All right, well, right here. Yep. Yeah, next video. Yeah, see that? Jeopardy. Yep, scroll. Yeah, it's validation. And
to be clear, we put that in the strategy. Like we said that the purpose of these social media channels would be a very quick point to prove what's happening in the classroom. And that is why we were so intentional about what we were posting. It was primarily videos from the classroom. There were some educational pieces, but we wanted it to serve that function because you also knew this, and a lot of other organizations, if you don't know it, you should know it. But courting the audience that you're serving is key to proving to the people you asking for the check that you can do what you say you're doing.
Data.
That's a big part of this.
Data.
So if those students, you know, this helped with buy-in from students because they were able to literally see themselves.
Yep, that's exactly
online.
Right.
And then, of course, having the additional goal of kind of combating some of that misinformation, especially at the time when we were doing it because we were still peak COVID. Like, but to his point, you have to understand all of those functions and then be able to prioritize them. And once you do that, I think it becomes less of a question about should we invest here, and it's more so about what do we need to do to make sure we can.
Absolutely. And you got to be transparent too whenever you are working with vendors and consultants or contractors on your resources. You know, and that was when I was like, hey, look, this my budget now, cuz like, hey, make it work.
And that's that's literally what the Red, White, and Blueprint was. It was like, okay, bet, based on all of the things we think you need, based on the priorities and your budget, this is how we think you should. And this is how we can get it done over the next 6 months.
Perfect. And from that, it's gonna yield tenfold. You know, easy. So yeah, it is a need. It is a need to make sure, but also even as you bring on new opportunities, start setting resources aside for it. Like I knew I was able to, just even within our exchanges, the phone calls, I was like, yeah, whenever I holler at Kayla for real, soon as we get the type of resources, like we'll really be able to dive deep. Cause it'll be a 45-minute, I'm on the way home and Kayla may be cutting the grass at the same time, just driving. And I'm like, what? That's a really good point. So, be intentional about the resources that you can invest. And if you cannot invest immediately, at least set aside some resources for a consultation, right? Because the good thing about technology is that you can probably execute. You just got to account for your time. Yep. And for me, my time was shifting a little bit, and so it was an amazing investment.
Cool. Well, look, I'm always here for all of the things that you're doing in any capacity. But I was really glad that we were able to, work in an official capacity.
Absolutely.
Outside of the 45-minute conversations on the way home.
Let me say this real quick, because I said data earlier. If there's anything that drives your reasoning behind making a decision around your overall, we'll just say outside the walls strategy, or how do you look outside the walls of your business, let data be the driver of that. Because we just brought on Dr. EJ. She has her PhD in qualitative research, and she's reviewing videos, right? And so she'll also be able to get real-time feedback, getting in front of the stakeholders, the students, the parents, and the faculty and the staff. But data is the currency of today. And so you can have a spreadsheet. You can have, a great intake process. You can have good things that's filled out. But that video element, you can't argue with someone else's experiences. So if anything, let the data be the driver on why you want to have a qualitative documentation in the form of video archived in a way in which you can use their words to tell your story.
I think that's good now. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good now.
I had to share that part.
Okay. Okay. And on that note, I'm going to have to take it over to our creators. So as you all will come to learn more about our creators, obviously we have Angelina over there, but we also have Seven and Brianna.
Yeah.
Who are the creatives behind LaunchPoint.
Okay.
We got quite a few clients over there at LaunchPoint Creative.
Yeah.
And so they're used to talking to me.
Yeah.
And Rachel. And I'm sure they're tired of me. Probably not so much Rachel. And it's not that I think they think I be lying, but I do love for them to be able to hear other people's perspectives on things that we've talked about. Because I think it just adds more context and more color. And for you to have been not just a Donji client, but a business owner.
For sure.
Who understands the significance of what it is that they are doing.
Come on.
I wanted them to be able to ask your question. So who has a question? Who wants to go first?
Gang. Yeah.
I guess I'll start it. First off, I want to thank you for the gems that you've been dropping.
Okay.
So I wanted to take you back to the students inside the classroom. So
Yeah.
you talked about how you post like on your social media about they could kind of get in the glimpse of a classroom. I want you to walk us through like a day of the learning and how do you keep students engaged? Because it's really hard to keep attention spans nowadays for students. So walk us through like how you teach the students and teach them about financial literacy.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we have a curriculum team, and one of the elements that we were very, and even myself, very involved with was the design of the curriculum. And so there are 4 elements that really feed into the curriculum. The first one is really what I'm most passionate about, is that it has to lead with excitement. And so there is a sequence that we have in the classroom from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, and I'll just start with high school, that typically your first memory with money is going to be tied when you start making some money, right? And that usually starts whenever you look at that pay stub and you're like, hey, somebody tell me who this brother named FICA is, right? Like, so going over that element usually isn't like, all right, yeah, let's talk about pay stubs today. So the way we do that is that the first slide, so usually in classroom environments, it's like, all right, this is what we're going to learn today. We won't even get into that. First slide is a scoreboard. So I'll say, all right, I want someone to come up here and read this scoreboard like it's a story. I want you to read these numbers like it's a story. So I have home team, away team, time, timeouts left. And so, of course, the athlete or someone's like, oh, yeah, I could do it. They walk up there. They get all confident. And what I want to show to the class is I want them to be able to see the correlation of their body posture whenever they read those numbers to a scoreboard. Could be a basketball game. And then I hit the next slide. Now it's a pay stub. And I said, now I want you to read those numbers. And it's crickets. Gross wage, right? And the correlation for them emotionally is that how is it that you are more confident talking about these numbers and that's a basketball game, but you're not talking about these numbers and that's how you get paid? And so that in itself is the hook, right? Does it lead with excitement? Now we get into the information in the classroom. And so the first question right after that is like, all right, what do you think the government spends our tax dollars on? You could use GIFs, you could use memes, and you'll be surprised on the range of answers. So before we show them what we know, we got to figure out what they know. And so we build our curriculum on a principle that's really rooted in the question is, can struggle be a productive learning environment? And we believe so, right? We believe that we want you to struggle with this first before we provide the solutions. So from the leading with excitement, making sure that there's an at-home application, make sure that there is a real-life application as well. So there are ingredients that keeps their attention because they're hearing these same words at home. And then there's also different activities that we use to ensure that it can be remembered with the range of endorphins that are required to have a significant, memory. So instead of us talking about, hey, you need a rent versus, all right, no, we're going to do an activity. You're renter 1, you're renter 2, you're renter 3, you the landlord. Who you going to rent to? Nah, bro, your credit too low. I need a bigger deposit. They've never been in the role of the owner.
It's like a Monopoly game. That's fun.
And it is, I'm getting chilled. It is the most fascinating aspects in the classroom because now it opens up this range of conversation. So through our activities, through our intentional design on like the first slide they see, it's something that's just like, hey, hold on, I thought we were talking about money. Why am I seeing NBA players with jerseys on and we supposed to be talking about credit? So each level of engagement, if it's elementary school, if it's middle school, if it's high school, we make sure that there is something that we could correlate them to their world, and then use different activities to make sure that it can stick.
Oh, thank you. That was very dope. I wish I had that when I was in school. I would be better in my finances, but I'm going to let them ask the next question.
It ain't too late.
And I got some, we got some ideas about how we trying to, get some partnerships going.
Come on now. Coinage.
Okay, so my question is, what is a good financial habit to have regardless of what your tax bracket is?
One of the unique things about money, and again, 12 years, so it's ranged, right? Like I've helped individuals with $40,000, $30,000, $25,000 a year to work with. I've worked with individuals that sign $50, $60 million contracts to work with, and advised and consulted organizations with over $100 million, right? And the consistent theme in those same conversations, it's not going to be a sexy term, budget. But this is the element of budget that we miss out. Budgeting is ultimately thinking about the event before it actually happens. Not to say, all right, I only allocated 10 towards this. If I do 11, shame on me. No, I just need to think about it before it actually happens and put some numbers to it. What budget does, it gives you the stability to think innovatively. And unfortunately, the energy and the acumen and the access needed to go from one tax bracket to another, some of the things that you are reacting to that life naturally brings us takes away the energy and the inertia that you establish in that direction. And so budgeting is really the bedrock of any major decision. If I want to buy a home or build a home, if I want to invest in a business or start a business, right? Like, you have to identify how much of my resources I can allocate towards this particular thing. And this is the thing about resources. Resources is cash, dinero, but it's also time, right? And so, I think I heard Shannon Sharp say, you use a watch to tell folks, something, but I use a watch to tell folks how valuable my time is, or something of that nature. But so there is this reality that life is measured in numbers, and any life event that requires an assessment of numbers that is tied to money, the quicker you can start thinking about that, the easier it is to make a decision once that event comes. Because wealthy people spend more time thinking about the decision than they do it takes to make the decision. And so there's decisions that I make, they're like, man, that was quick. Bro, I thought about that for about 20 months. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like it's so budgeting ultimately is putting yardsticks to life events that you want to accomplish. And if it doesn't happen, just move the yardstick, right? And unfortunately, one of the reasons why budgeting isn't done on a consistent basis is because it takes too long to celebrate. So when you do budget, identify something that you can celebrate on a weekly or on a monthly basis to keep but at the end of the day, you want to do something, you have to sacrifice something to be able to get there, so it's not going to feel good. I want abs this summer, so I'm going to have to do crunches. I don't like doing crunches, but I want the abs, okay? So there is this role emotions play that we cannot let have the priority in our decision making, but we still, acknowledge it. But that is the biggest reason why people don't use budgeting as a asset building tool, is because their emotions get in the way. So budget. Sorry for the Kanye rant.
I think that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask. I'm someone that believes in mind-body connection. I don't think that those things are separated at all. I know in our Western, medical, we believe in the separation of the two, but I don't. Yep. So my question is, and you were mentioning it earlier with Kayla talking about investing in herself, right? Yep. Coming into money and investing that into herself. So my question is, how does somebody invest in themselves psychologically to make better decisions about money?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love this. Our first chapter with the elementary school students is financial psychology. So one of the things that we inherited being in the classroom, of course, with younger students is, and this has been a statewide issue that Birmingham City School was able to celebrate in regards to the reading level, right? Literacy. So even when we think about financial literacy, all right, that's the numbers and everything, but you still got to be able to read, and so we just had a team member facilitate a post-test today, and we made a decision as a team that in the classrooms, we're actually going to read the questions instead of them reading it. Certain words they just don't know, right? And you got to be able to capture that. But fast forward, financial psychology, or the way in which our mind defines certain financial terms, is really the bedrock of the behavior that we probably can't even speak to. There's a lot of behavior that we've inherited that it's truly because of trauma associated to these financial terms that goes from one household to another, that were real experiences that if we don't unpack the way in which our mind impacts not only our behavior, but also the thinking necessary to change the behavior, that's we ain't doing nothing. So the role in which one's mindset plays to ensure that their ability to be able to not only receive the information, but execute it in a way that is sustainable, that they'll be able to build off of it. If we don't address the mindset, then nothing else. That's just like sowing seed on concrete, right? Like the mindset is the land bank in which the cultivation of these different terms around compounding interest, debt reduction, like all these secure credit card versus all these elements, right, that are necessary to be aware of. If you have a deficit mindset, or we don't acknowledge the truth in your reality of your mindset, any other information that comes alongside that, it's over with. It's over with. And so that's why you hear people say, oh, I heard that before, but you didn't do anything with it. And I don't shame you for that. Let's talk about what you've inherited from a thinking perspective that paralyzed you from making a decision. And then let me encourage you to let you know that actually what grandma said wasn't off base. She was actually correct when she said she couldn't trust the bank. But now there is these different regulations, like through CRA. So like we're able to equip them with the information to let folks, especially black folks, let folks know that they're not crazy. But alongside that, to your question, if we don't address the mindset, which financial psychology is a part of every experience in the classroom, adults as well, we're pretty much sowing seed on concrete.
Thank you.
Great question.
That's so good. They so smart.
That's why that's your team, cuz.
You know, it's why we got to invest in these young, because they already on the right track.
That's right. Great questions.
Do y'all have any other questions?
Come on, let's go.
If someone wanted to start a business and they did not know where to start as far as like marketing and just getting their name out there, what advice would you give them?
Market a solution you've been able to experience. So what I've seen with business owners is that they get excited about the problem they're looking to solve, but they have yet to solve it yet. Like, so you need some receipts, because once you gather the interest, your receipt is going to give you insight on the process you need to take people through to be able to do it on a consecutive basis. So, you know, if you say, look, man, my cookie's fire. Well, let folks taste it. You know, like go sell some first, right? And get some responses and feedback before you invest in the marketing, because that feedback is going to let you know what you need to market, right? So establish a product that you can share with the marketing team that is an example of the work that you can do or that you have done, so they can know what to shape the message around. Because it's a in the West Coast, or more so in the startup Silicon Valley, there is this proven methodology to be able to get hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just by talking about an idea. Let me show you a picture of this app. Let me show you this demo. All right, let me see it in action. They didn't have to show any revenue to be valued at $10 billion. They didn't have to show. So there is this perspective that is realized in regards of raising money. But when we talk about making money, that product got to be complete. And so any business owners that's looking at, partnering with a marketing team, agency, organization, have enough time with yourself to become, because they're going to ask you some questions.
I was just about to say, I got to throw a plug in that. That is literally why the Red, White, and Blueprint exists, because we would encounter businesses that were either too early in their journey or just hadn't done enough of the client-facing work to give us something to work with. And as y'all have seen, we work with clients in different stages as well, and you see the different things we have to do based on where they are. But yeah, the whole reason that existed, and even Launch Point, is because we wanted to, I don't like to just take for money.
Right.
So for me, it's like, how do I tell you what you need to be thinking about?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Without having you give me money for a website you don't need, because you don't even know if people want to buy that product.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so I love that you said that, because they get to hear that from somebody other than me.
Yeah.
That's one of my Kanye rants.
Right. Look, and as you were speaking, there was another solution that came to mind that, and I ain't get paid for this now, so I'm just speaking facts. Y'all know about me. Hey, I stand on truth. What young folks say, they stand on business.
Big business.
Kayla and her team, they're very process oriented as well. And so even though it may be as simple to you in regards of, hey, we want to make sure that this is presented on the website, it's like, all right, but what is the process? What is the experience of the client? How many clicks is this going to take? What type of, like, there is a process there is a method to it, right? And anyone that is an entrepreneur that is building something that will outlive them, you will appreciate that system and process, because that's what's going to outlive us. So yeah, very, very, very grateful to be able to work with Don G. And as you all can see, it's been able to develop not only a incredible infrastructure, but a scalable one that essentially, which is why we'll be, it's a lot of things that's about to be announced. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait. Because, we when I say we plan for it, we literally created things for the scale. And so when we're able to see some of those things come into implementation, I'll be like, Rachel, girl, look.
That's right. Logo, all that, all of it. Everything is intentional. And that's why, the business owner and executive team, because you may be working with an organization that has, 300, 500 plus employees, 10,000 employees. So business owner and the executive team, just be very clear on, let me back up. You need to be create an environment to where blind spots are going to be uncovered, and put your emotions in the car before you start the meeting, because what you don't want to do is start, and I see it in meetings all the time, well, the reason why you ain't do it. So there are elements of growth that the natural, probably common denominator of the ingredient is being uncomfortable. So if you need it, just, give them the keys to get out the way, but be very clear on the end coordinate on that GPS. Like, no, look, we're going to Denny's. We're going to this particular city, and I want to get there this way, and I want to make sure these people see us along the way. Here's the keys.
I love that you said that too, because that also points to another thing I have them do, which is a lot of research and a lot of justification for the decisions they make.
Yep.
Because when we talk to clients, if we do end up in one of those uncomfortable moments where it's like we know we're pushing you, the answer isn't, I feel this way. The answer is, you said you wanted to go to Denny's.
Right. That's right.
This is the street you want to turn on is blocked.
That's right.
This is not just this is how we get to Denny's.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the processes too, because that is how we are teaching and training them, right? This is how you think through these things, so that you don't need to talk to me or Rachel every time you make a decision. You now know how to think about it yourself. Take that, go work at an agency, go work inside somebody's communication team, whatever the case may be. But understanding that, there's an end goal that we are responsible for making sure our client keeps front of mind and helping guide them there. So yeah, I'm the amen corner for sure. Any other questions from y'all?
Okay, I know you talked about working with parents and also with students. What do you feel like are the biggest challenges dealing with either or, more so particularly like with the parents, of like educating them and getting them to the place where they can start thinking about finances differently, but also teaching their kids differently?
It's an excellent question. I'm so glad you asked that.
And everybody listen carefully, because he finna drop gems that's gonna help a lot of y'all, because a lot of y'all are trying to serve these same two audiences, and he finna tell you what you need to know.
I hope so. So true wealth, what I've been able to witness is less of the money that is in your bank account, is more of the conversations at the dinner table. Hey, Johnny, let me tell you why we're leaving 5 of our residential properties in your name. Hey, Caitlin, this is why you're going to receive, if something happens to me and your mother, this is why you're going to receive $15,000 a month until you're 65. Hey, whenever your kids go to college, they're going to receive $250,000 as soon as they get their degree. What? Right? It's that exchange. The challenges that we are uncovering, but also we witnessed going 12 years ago, working with households, is the first thing that they are dealing with when we bring them information that they weren't aware of is the shame of not knowing that information. and then the calculation of if they did know that information, where their life would be. That takes some time. Imagine learning something and then thinking like, man, if I would have known that 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, now their kids in school, probably 15 years ago, my savings would have been a bit different. I would have elected this for my 401k, right? I wouldn't have chosen this type of credit card that now dropped my credit score to this, which is why I had to get this type of vehicle in which there are decisions now they start to audit that they've already made, that naturally your emotions is going to start paralyzing you from making any other decision, because shame is the highest the endorphin that creates shame or acknowledges shame has the highest priority internally. So anything that's being brought through these external faculties like your ears or your eyes, it may not be received in that moment. And if someone does not understand that, they will run over and just start sharing information and shaming them on not knowing it, right? And so we know that on the front end, which we like, hey, look, don't go put your mom in the chokehold with this information. Like, hey, man, how come you ain't like? Don't we make it? It's a bit comical, but also when we tie that history to it, now they feel empowered to make sure that it stops with them, right? And so we want to acknowledge that there is a reality of not knowing this information, that calculation is frustrating. Like, think about before someone owns a home and they run the calculation on like, yo, I've been renting for about 8 years. That's $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. 8 years. That's $96,000. That's 100 racks.
House, yeah.
100 racks. I'm not saying you should own versus rent it. Well, I kind of am. But the calculation, you got to sit with that a little bit. Right. And so that is an element that we acknowledge. From there, now we establish a way in which the in-person instruction can follow them at home. That's why one of our core elements of our curriculum design is at-home application. So a question that we ask at the end of the curriculum is, what is something that you learned today that you can apply today? What is something that you learned today that you can share with your parents today? And then we'll ask, there may be certain activities that they did in the classroom, and we go say, hey, yo, take this home to your mom, see how they do. And it develops this compatibility with this information in a way that keeps them authentic within their status of their relationship. Because unfortunately, if a child comes home, hey, mom, you don't even know the difference between simple interest and compounding interest. Now the parent like, actually don't. We'll go simple interest them dishes and go compound them that laundry, right? Like there is this. But if we can, that week prior to that parent is introduced to the difference between simple interest and compounding interest, when that student comes home, now they're equipped with still being the authority in the household, even though they haven't been able to execute it, but they can at least entertain it in a way that, because financial education, financial literacy, and I may get into it right now, because again, financial literacy, being able to read, right? Read and write. You'll finance to it. Now we'll add in some like financial terms to it. Financial education is the application of those concepts. So just because you can read credit and read the definition of it doesn't mean you know how to apply the concept or if you even understand the concept of credit. So there's financial literacy, there's financial education, then there's financial wellness, to your point. How do these terms make you feel? Because if you don't get clear on how they make you feel, your actions are going to be, it's going to be an unauthorized audit on the actions because it's not taken into all the different elements that factor into your decision making. After financial wellness, so we got, all right, now you know how to read it. Now you know how to apply it. Now you have a relationship with your money in regards to these terms. Now we can get into this Dave Ramsey's and the Susie Orman's financial coaching, where they provide general information without knowing anyone's situation. That's why the folks they call, they give them good information. Now, I agree with probably about 41% of what Dave Ramsey is sharing. But for the most part, good foundational information that folks will be able to learn from. And then after financial coaching, now you may be in a situation where you're like, yo, I got me a W-2 situation, man. I got me some benefits. Now you need some financial planning. Now that there are assets that we can work with, you probably went to your first home buyers program, and now you close on a home. Now you have an asset to work with. And then you work within a job that's providing some great opportunities. Oh, they got a 403B, they got a 401k. Now you need some investment advice. That's called financial advising, right? That's why they're financial advisors. There's different compliance tied to these terms too, right? And then as that grows, you sell your home, things grow, then, now we're starting to manage a little bit of wealth. Right. And so that wealth management is there. And then the last piece ultimately is the estate planning. Right. The unique thing about that process, people think financial literacy is just for poor people. Financial literacy, financial education, financial wellness, that's at actually every tax bracket. So lowest tax bracket, they are unaware of certain terms. So you're financially illiterate. So if you don't know these terms, there's no way you can be educated on those concepts. Next tax bracket, you don't know this term. Next tax bracket. What is that? What does that mean? Tax loss optimization. You're illiterate on it. What does beta mean? What does alpha mean? Right? So these things, tax loss harvesting. So it don't matter what tax bracket we on. Oh, yeah, I want to invest in real estate. All right, what's the opportunity zone? What capital gains are factored into the investment, into the opportunity fund? And then what are you're financially literate on that. That is a higher tax bracket conversation. And so when I saw that there was this messaging storytelling around financial literacy, like it was just for poor people, specifically poor black people. No. So some of the challenges when it pertains to the lack of continuity between what parents need to know and then how they can be exposed to it in a way in which they bring you the blind spots instead of you uncovering the blind spots. And that's a different process because you establish that means because what we've done, the Financial Freedom Project, we've established a community, a safe space for individuals to come with questions and concerns about their financial situation where they know they ain't gonna get no judgment, not one at all. And we got results. We got a ton of results. We got new homeowners. We got over $1 million in student loans that's been forgiven because of our workshops, and we got receipts. Ain't no, Isaac, let me tell you, here's the attachment. So over $1 million of debt freed up because of workshops that we've done. Think about how much discretionary income is now being flowed back into the ecosystem. Now folks are going to concerts. Now folks are going to food truck festivals, which means that is more money being flowed into the business, more money being flowed through taxes, like all these elements of an ecosystem. When people have access to information that allows them to mobilize themselves and take care of their families, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. Well, Isaac, obviously, we're going to have to do a part 2 because it is just it's just so much. It's so much good information, but like being able to extract some of the larger themes is so, because I'm just like sitting here listening to you. I'm like, what I'm hearing is he understands his audience.
Oh, yeah.
And that is why that's one of the first things we ask whenever we're talking to any client, is one of the things we go back to whenever we're making decisions. Because when you deeply understand the people you're talking to, you're serving, you can do what he just did, right? You can think through what those actions are like. And so for him, that's like, well, how do we create processes to make sure they're able to get access to the information they need? For us, it's how do we get in front of them, mm-hmm. right? If we can get into the brains of the people we're trying to reach, how can we... Okay, well, if they're going to have this conversation at the dinner table, like, do we need to make sure our packaging is on the news? Like, it's the same foundation. And so I think you have the understanding of the audience, and of course, just the subject matter expertise, mm-hmm. right? Like, deeply understanding what it is you do, and that only comes by way of time, which is why we always say, we want to work with people. We want to help people tell stories about what they're already doing, because not that our job is easy, but it becomes easy when all I have to do is listen to this conversation and figure out how to package it, repackage it, extract parts out of it that he didn't think much about, and turn it into something that we know is going to capture somebody's attention on Instagram.
That's right.
Right. So like, that's another reason why I want to have these conversations, so that y'all can see, like, this is gold, as y'all can see. Right. So our whole point is, how do we get this gold to the rest of the people?
Yeah.
How do we make sure how do we capture this passion, this energy, this expertise and this data.
Yeah, come on now, data.
And present it in different ways on all of these different platforms, so that all of the people who need to know about this stuff can know about it. Right. That is ultimately our job. We're just that little translator, that little go between.
That's right.
So yeah, for sure gonna have to have a part 2. But overall, I just, I love you.
Yeah, come on, Kim. Oh, you already know.
I don't know that there's anybody else I would have wanted to do this first kind of case study, fireside chat style situation with, other than you, because you get it.
There was a lot of knee scraping, and there was a lot of lonely days. And for anyone that may feel like, man, I wish I could be there and have a Don, just keep going. Keep going. Those times in which it seems very difficult, in which it may be difficult, that when we think about storytelling, that's when someone is interested in turning the page. Like, oh my goodness, I wonder how they got through that. And so document now, even in its unresourced form, right? Document now, because that gives more assets to the team. But don't allow, and I don't want to be preaching on here, but it's just sight and vision. That bill just came through, and you see it, and you're going to have to open it at some point. But there is a vision that you have internally that the world needs to hear and see, that if the foundation of it all betters the life of other people, let that fire keep burning. And so, and again, once we release and we know that our job here is to essentially be a vessel, then there are other individuals, entities, and organizations that are going to ensure the effort needed is decreased by you to ensure that the innovation needed to expand by you is done in a way in which that's what leverage creates. And so, I think there is a unique group of folks that have natural skill sets that can help you with that. And, Donji and her team, they've built that. So, as Fat Joe said, the price will go up. Yesterday's price is not today's price now. Okay? So lock in.
He said it, I did. Well, Isaac, obviously we got to do the obligatory. Tell the folk where they can find you.
Oh, yeah, we'll make it easy. imcffp.com. Go to our website. You'll get access to all of our social media channels, be able to see just different workshops on what we're capturing. You may not be able to watch it because you're not a client, but if you are Birmingham City School faculty and staff, if you are a parent of a Birmingham City School student, those resources are for you. Be on the lookout for more announcements in which cities and municipalities that we will be entering into. Outside of that, that's why I like the website. You just go to one location, find everything.
Period. Well, again, definitely gonna have to clock in for a part 2. Definitely looking forward to it. Thank you all for listening. Because what is this, episode 8? I think now. Ooh. I think it's episode 8. It's the consistency. But yeah, until next time, we will see y'all later.